Welcome, everyone. I think we're going to get started. My name is Frans Burkhout. I'm the assistant principal for King's Climate and Sustainability. So I'm the academic lead for much of the work that's going on sustainability at King's. I'm so pleased to see so many people here. It's really fantastic, and it's an important moment for us. And I want to pay tribute to Rosa, of course, for all the work you've been doing. This is the beginning of a 2-year campaign that we're going to have at King's, which is really around circularity and waste management. And I just thought I'd try and put that in a little bit of sort of broader academic context maybe as well, and why this is so important. You know, we tend to think about universities as places of knowledge and ideas, things which are in the mind and, you know, not very material. But in fact, of course, we're a community. I mean, King's is a community of about 50,000 people, if we count the students and all the staff. And we have an enormous resource footprint. I mean, we have these buildings, but then, of course, we have laboratories. We have all sorts of other activities, transport and so on, within the university, but also often embedded in hospitals. And typically this system is a linear system. So when I was a young researcher, I did a piece of work on the idea of industrial ecology. This was in the 1990s, a long time ago. The ultimate ideal, I think, that we're still working towards in our economies is for economies which are circular, where we are reusing the vast majority of materials and powered by the sun, whether by wind or by solar or you know, geothermal or whatever, renewably. That is the ultimate goal, I think, of the sustainability transformations that we're involved in. And we're a very, very long way away from that, because we've started from systems which are pretty much completely linear. You know, we use stuff and it gets thrown out and it becomes emissions or waste. And of course, we've powered this with fossil energy broadly. So it's a complete transformation, it's a complete, you know, reorganization of the way we think of economies and social activities, from this linear fossil-powered system to circular, renewably powered systems. And so this whole campaign around waste, resource awareness, resource efficiency, and cyclicity is essential to that process of transformation that we're undergoing in all sorts of different ways, right across societies, businesses, and in fact within organizations as well. Some of that has to do with you know, infrastructural change, new ways of doing things, and some of it has to do with behavioral change. And that's obviously the difficult thing often, is to get people to try and see things differently and to do things differently as well. And so it's a subtle balance between enabling infrastructure, technology, rules, and getting people to buy in and so on. So it's all of those things together will enable us to make the change we need to do. Currently, we're actually pretty good at King's at this sort of stuff. So we have an official recycling rate of about 48%, but nevertheless, every year we generate more than 1,000 tons of operational waste. And I think part of the goal of this campaign that we have is really we have objectives and so on of increasing our recycling rates, of reducing our waste generation. But part of the aim of this campaign, I think over 2 years, is to get more people aware of the materiality of our university and thinking very carefully about much more resource efficient ways of delivering the research and the education and the impact that we're seeking to do. So the work you're doing is completely fundamental to that aim. And what I think we're trying to do is, of course, bring people into this awareness, into the campaign, into thinking of ways of improving the way we work, and of course getting the leadership in the university to become more aware of this particular issue. They're very aware on the decarbonisation side, and that's great, but we really need to have attention on our resource use as well, and waste and cyclicity. That's a little bit underdeveloped, I think, for us, and to make the kinds of investments and changes in policy and practice that we need. So I think I might stop there. I'm really looking forward to today because it's a place where we're going to have lots of ideas. What could we be doing better? What more should we be doing? It's part of Climate and Sustainability Month, so it's very much a period when we want to draw attention within the university community to all this stuff. And I really look forward to being part of the discussions today. So thank you very much for coming. Thanks a lot.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you all. I'm Henry. I'm the Waste and Resource Coordinator for King's. Just before we start, we're going to have a photographer here, you might have seen, flying about. If anyone's not happy with their photos being displayed, shared around, just let us know afterwards, okay? So the agenda for today, we're going to start now with registration and then the presenting of the waste campaign that we're running. Then we're going to have some short pitches from academics and stakeholders around the community. And then we get into a brainstorming activity with feedback, and then afterwards networking, so a chance for us all to connect and talk about waste some more. So I thought I'd kick us all off by saying where we are now, where the current baseline is for waste that we look after at King's. And hopefully you're all familiar with the waste hierarchy. If you're not, it is a very common management tool that's used all over to manage waste, and it puts in the priority of how we deal with it. So prevent, reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, and finally dispose, which we don't want to do. So at King's, we are currently very good at following the waste hierarchy. You'll be able to see that since we originally launched the waste strategy and action back in 2017-18, we've actually reduced our operational waste by about 50%, even though the university has grown. So that is a huge, huge achievement that lots of different people have worked towards. The second is reduce, and that's something that we're working on a lot more now. We're focusing on things like the Gloves Off campaign, Route to Tip, and sustainable labs. The third is in reusing, and that's something where I think we have a bit of opportunity to grow, where we do very good work at the moment, but 49 tons of our waste was reused, which it is a good number, but it could be a lot better. And where we've also been focusing in the last however many years, 4 years, is in recycling and pushing up recycling rates. And we've been working with our key partners and waste contractors, BIFA, to really push those recycling rates higher and educate the staff, students, community of King's to know exactly what to do with recycling. So again, where we are, we manage 1,000 tons of waste every year. That's equivalent to 99 London buses. So it's quite a lot. Okay, there's quite a lot to deal with. Clinical waste, 264 tons, and that is the equivalent of 44 London ambulances. So again, big numbers. And finally, we waste 38 tons of waste electronics, and that's the equivalent of 355 fridges. Okay, so again, we as a community across all of our campuses, we manage a lot of waste. Now, how do we do that? So, of the 1,000 tons, it's split off into our main waste streams of general waste, recycling, and food. So general waste is about 46% of our current waste stream, and it travels down the river, and it goes to an incinerator plant where it's burnt and used as fuel to produce electricity. And in 1 year, we produce 425 megawatt hours of electricity, which is roughly enough to power 157 homes for a year. So it's kind of the idea of waste, London waste looking after London. and putting it back into the community. The second is with recycling, and again, 44% of our waste goes to be recycled. It goes to a big materials recycling facility, or a MRF, where it's separated out into all different materials and things like that, and then it's refined and processed and gets made back into new materials, ideally back into the same materials. That's how you gain full circularity, but if not, into other materials. So an example of that would be a tin can being broken down and remade into a tin can. Exactly the same. And then finally, our food waste, which is 9% of our total waste streams, goes to an AD plant, an anaerobic digester. And it's essentially like your stomach. So it would eat food, and bacteria break down the food, and it produces gas, which is captured and used in gas generation plants to, again, power homes. So the energy produced there from a year of our food waste is enough to power about 18 homes. So again, trying to give a bit back, using our waste resourcefully. We also manage a lot of difficult waste streams. So example like waste, clinical waste, reuse. With all of those, we're trying to increase the reuse rate that we're doing. So with our waste, 31% of that is actually reused. The laptops get refurbished and sent back and sold to schools and things like that, and charities. And then you see on the right is end of term collections from students. So about 49 tons of waste is left by students every year, and we collect that and donate it to charities. So again, it's preventing the waste being produced. Again, as I mentioned earlier, with reuse, we're trying to really build on it this year and going forwards. And we already work with a lot of really good schemes, such as Uni Green Scheme, who are actually here today to do a talk. With Warpit, hopefully a lot of you will see Warpit. Yeah, we trade around goods, making sure one person's waste is another person's treasure, might send it around. And then we're also working with some of our contractors that we've worked with for a while, like Crown. We're putting more pressure on them to reuse things more. So in a lot of our projects, like when we cleared out JCMB, they moved a lot of the furniture there, whatever they could, over to other buildings, so saving a lot of waste. We also run things like clothes swaps. So we've had one recently, 250 items of clothing was donated. So again, all these sorts of things are saving waste, which is good. And we've, so in terms of engaging with the community, we've run a lot of campaigns and meetings with researchers. So we're giving researchers platforms with which to explore things like how AI can manage and improve our waste, understanding like the hidden costs of fashion. And like I said, we swapped 250 clothes, and also we hosted an inter-university hackathon event, and we'll be hearing from the winners of that today as well. Yeah. Stop working. There you go.
It's all right. Yeah, one of the other things that we found out is that a lot of research at King's is already happening on waste. So these are some of the headlines, and some of them are really, really interesting, like the self-healing potholes. Apparently, we have a really big problem in the UK with potholes on our roads. And actually, these self-healing potholes that also include AI and use biomass waste can actually save the government a lot of money and make our driving experience much nicer. So there's really incredible stuff that we're going to be hearing from today as well. I think one of the key things for me is when you run this type of behavior change campaign, you need to listen to the community, and that's why you're all here today. But we've done some of this behind the scenes. So we ran a university-wide survey. We had 1,000 responses, so it gave us a really good idea of what our community wants and needs. We did focus groups. We looked at the sustainability champion-led waste audits. We did collaborative brainstorm sessions. We've collaborated with a lot of staff and students. As Henry said, we've met loads of teams at King's and just talked about all the different opportunities. And we've done behavioral observations at King's food outlets with Randa, who's also going to be speaking here today. And that was really interesting just to watch what people do and where they put their rubbish. What did we find out? Here's the interesting bit. People basically told us that they understood recyclable, food waste, single-use plastics, upcycling, repairing. It seems like upcycling is quite a new thing, and it's really trending at the moment, especially with the fast fashion industry being so terrible. And we also found out that people don't understand everything about waste. So the waste hierarchy, it's not very well known. People don't really know about anaerobic digestion. And so even circular economy as a term is not that well understood. So we thought, what can we do to increase the understanding and raise awareness on these different areas as well? It also really helped us understand the barriers to proper recycling and waste disposal. And this is a really key element of the campaign, right? Trying to break down barriers to make everything easier for our community and our stakeholders. There's a lot of misunderstanding around contamination. A classic one is coffee cups that everyone seems to think are recyclable, but are in fact not recyclable. And things like pizza grease on a pizza box. We also found out there's a bit of insufficient information and guidance. So we're working to create that. Distribution of bins, non-uniform bin signs, overflowing and insufficient ones, and a lack of awareness around the correct behavior. We actually found out that most people just look in the bin and they think, well, if there's something that looks like what I'm putting in the bin, I'll put it in that bit. So it's a much more complicated thing than we initially thought. The campaign's actual name, we've gone with No Time to Waste, because we're currently, we're experiencing the climate crisis right now, right here. Just a week ago, I was talking with Westminster Council and they were showing me photos of floods in Westminster's borough, and how it affected people. So it's really important to keep this level of urgency with us throughout our time in this university and once you leave as well. So yeah, it's called No Time to Waste, Put Rubbish in Its Place. As a bit of an overview, it's a 2-year campaign. So our aim in the first year was really to make sure everything we're doing at King's was good enough to implement more schemes, to work with Henry, to find data. And then the second year is really going to be focused on going externally and working with our community. We have Lambeth Council here today, working with our councils to understand how we can work together and how we can also bring the researchers' work to the different stakeholders in London. Obviously, changing behavior across King's, that's our biggest aim, to collaborate with community partners and organizations like something like today, facilitating operational change and connecting with and supporting cross-community waste efforts. I think the great thing about this campaign is it spans the whole university. So even here today, we sit in different sustainability teams, looking at slightly different angles. We're slightly more focused on research, education, behavior change, and Henry's really looking at the technical operation and the infrastructure we need to make this happen. Just quickly, some of our objectives. Obviously, to improve our recycling rates, you could have imagined, especially through decreased contamination and positive action. So there's even schemes now at King's Food, for example, taste, don't waste. So you can actually taste your food before you buy it, which actually stops you ending up with a plate of food that you didn't want to eat in the first place. Enabling operational changes that reduce waste and facilitate improved behavior change. So we're currently working with a creative design agency to redesign all of our bin signs and to create fun stickers as well, try and jazz things up a little bit and get people's eyes to look at the bins a little bit more. And then thirdly, increasing King's reputation as an institution and taking really a multi-level and interdisciplinary approach to climate-related concerns. So even today, when we get to that networking part and the activity, really try and connect with as many people as you can and have conversations across all the disciplines, because that's where we come up with these beautiful ideas that will actually change the world and create long-lasting change. Without further ado, we will start with the speakers. Just to say to the speakers themselves, there are obviously 2 sides you can come up, but if you could stay on this side of the stage while you talk, that'd be ideal for the camera. So just this second half. And the clicker, if you just click on this side, your slides will go through. Obviously, you can do it manually on the laptop as well. Oh. So firstly, we have Dr. Fatima Wang and Georgia Brown. Fatima Wang is a senior lecturer in marketing from King's Business School, and her research interests include international business strategy, services, and sustainability marketing. Georgia is a research assistant working on the project, and she just completed a master's in nutrition. They're both working on a One King's Impact funded project, which brings together expertise on healthier eating and also creating marketing campaigns to support this.
So hello, everyone. My name is Fatima, and okay.
Yeah, if you just
go to the next.
Yeah.
Oh, I've started with drawing on this. Can you guess what this is? Thank you. Someone said tree. No, broccoli. Okay, broccoli and a banana. So what do you usually do with broccoli and banana when you cook it? I usually take off the stem, right? Anyone stem? Yes? Yeah, right. It's the tough bit. What about the banana? Does anyone keep the banana peel? No. Okay. So you're all normal, right? As normal consumers, we will chop, get rid of the stem and get rid of the peel. But actually, what we're creating is food waste. So the photo that Henry showed previously had lots of banana peels in there, right? So actually what we're also throwing away is lots of good fiber, and that's where the Root to Tip project is a collaboration between the nutrition sciences and also marketing, because we're trying to change behavior, right? So Georgia will talk a little bit about the fibers.
Sure. So yeah, as Fatima said, the Root to Tip project is a collaboration across multiple departments at King's and also with King's Food as well. So we're approaching this problem from multiple angles, and traditionally food waste has been seen as like a purely sustainability issue. But actually one of the exciting things about the Root to Tip concept is that the parts of the food that we normally throw away actually can help to target some of the issues that are facing the UK population, particularly a lack of fibre in our diet. So one of the things that we've been doing in the nutritional sciences department is taking the parts of the produce that would normally be thrown away and analysing the fibre content. And the aim of this is so that once we've launched the Root to Tip dishes, we can see not only how much food waste we're reducing by including them, but also how much extra fibre we're giving people into their diets. So this is why the tagline for the project is maximum nutrition, minimum waste. And it's important that I say that the right way around, otherwise the message is totally different. So yeah, we're kind of bringing all of these things together, and we are sort of deep in the analysis. We've also been running some focus groups with staff and students to understand why people think the way they do about eating things like peels and stalks. And we're bringing all that together, and the culmination will be the launch of the Root to Tip menu at the end of April, which is very exciting across the King's Food venues. So do keep an eye out. We'll be running some data collection and surveys. And would love to know your thoughts. So yeah, this is the members of the team that are involved. It's been exciting to do it in such a collaborative way, and also seeing the different perspectives that the different departments bring.
Forgot to mention, yes, of course, King's Food is behind all this, of course, the menu creation with King's Food. And you're saying that we might be able to taste some today, so that would be really exciting. So the whole idea is to create, from a marketing perspective, create a branding around it so people remember Root to Tip as a kind of time for waste, similar idea, but also to encourage people through social media. How do we use social media campaigns to encourage people on campus to order these kind of high fiber and Root to Tip menus.
Right? I think maybe the last thing to mention as well is that because this project is part of One King's Impact, we are sort of treating King's as the testing zone. So one of the partnerships on the project is the University Catering Organisation. So everything that we learn, we will be sharing with other university caterers so that they can implement it. And hopefully Root to Tip, as a phrase, it's kind of increasing in popularity, but will come to represent something in the public mindset. So when people see it, they have a recognition similar to the Eat Well label that you might see in different shops or things like that. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, if it's a success, we'll be able to share it with other people as well. So yeah, thank you for your time.
And we will actually be able to taste some of this food as a little sneak preview to their new menu during the networking. Next, we have Dr. Randa Kachev, research affiliate in the Department of Geography. She is an urban waste and sustainability expert whose work and research is focused around reducing the environmental impacts through infrastructure, product innovation, and policy change. Her research spans a variety of topics within waste reduction, particularly macro waste, litter, and sewage, which you'll know is quite a big problem at the moment. And she's an experienced science communicator with a background in corporate marketing. She's a frequent consultant and commentator on topics where science and policy overlapped. Her work is aimed at driving automatic behavior and practices and ultimately seeking to build resilience into communities and promote sustainable environmental initiatives. Thank you.
And you're timing us? Okay, I'll cut some things out. All right, thank you for having me. For the past 10 years, I have been researching waste. I am wildly fascinated about what people throw away and mostly how these things are thrown away. Interestingly, the topic of litter is very rarely addressed in academic context. There tends to be a focus on areas of accumulation like marine plastics and very little understanding of the source, which is mismanaged waste on land. What research does exist on the topic focuses primarily on solutions for intervention, particularly on the behavior level and through communications and nudges. There have been very few studies aimed to understand the physical properties and processes that lead to litter creation. And in my opinion, this is a vital step that has been missed in scientific process. So this has been my aim, to catalog the debris and observe the habits in an effort to paint a richer picture of the steps that lead to littering and identify where within this process we can make it easier to keep places clean. And I've learned a lot over the past decade. To begin with, litter itself is full of clues as to how it came to be. Historically, the study of waste is a key factor in understanding cultural practices and mapping migration through migration patterns across the globe. And modern litter is equally as informative. An empty crisp packet tells us where someone bought those crisps, when they bought them, what flavor they are, how much they cost. All this information you would not get from a crisp on its own. I've also learned that not all litter is treated the same. For example, cigarettes are littered far more frequently than any other type of litter and are not widely perceived as such. I have several documented observations of people seeking out a bin to dispose of a tin and simultaneously flicking their cigarette on the ground. I've learned that not all litter is littered. In just under half of the non-cigarette littering observations we've collected, these behaviors can only be described as polite, where people have placed their items of rubbish neatly on ledges, on structures that might look like a bin but is not, or stack them very nicely next to a full bin. On top of this, another 16% of the littering that we observed was entirely accidental, with the person not even being aware that they had dropped something. In all, 64% of the littering events that I've documented over these years were entirely unintentional. Now, how effective do you think an anti-littering campaign that focuses primarily on communications will be on a population who is completely unaware that they themselves have engaged in this behavior? All these lessons have taught me that there's no single solution to litter and that individual spaces, items, and knowledge gaps need to be addressed specifically. Most importantly, this needs to be approached in a way that is easy to understand and comply with. Because we are not only all very busy, but we are inundated with stuff. More products than ever before are produced with the sole purpose to be thrown away. In the UK alone, 11 billion items of packaging are bought and thrown away every year. What this event represents is an opportunity to work across sectors, which may have different goals but face common issues. For example, I'm not an expert in recycling. My colleagues are. However, we both face a common issue, which is bottle caps. Bottle caps are small, they're easily littered, via accidental means, and equally, bottle caps are an issue in recycling facilities because they complicate the process of sorting. This summer, the EU passed a directive that enacted the requirement of all bottle caps to be attached to bottles. In that simple packaging adjustment, not only has one of the top 10 littered items in the world been automatically removed, the process of recycling these materials has been facilitated, all without having to communicate a single message. It is collaborative and automatic solutions like this which can begin to chip away at the issues we face in waste management. Imagine the power of a collaboration with the NHS to address both cigarette use and cigarette litter, or perhaps a relationship between anti-litter and circular economy initiatives. In the UK, over 350,000 tons of recyclable items are littered every year. These items are not re-injected into our economy and equate a potential loss of 13 million in reusable material resources. All this to say that I hope the logo behind me represents that efforts to stop the leakage of litter into the environment is a vital key to closing the loop in a circular economy. Thank you.
Next, we have Rebecca Lauder, who's the climate network lead at the London Borough of Lambeth. She's leading on business engagement for the climate team and developing the ecosystem of the Lambeth Climate Partnership to foster innovation, ideation, and community at the borough level to accelerate action and drive local investment.
Hi, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me? Sorry, French accent. I hope you'd understand me. Hi. Has anyone here heard about the Lambeth Climate Partnership? Can you please raise your hands? Yes, small fifth. Thank you, thank you. Lovely to be here. No, wrong one, sorry. So the Lambeth Climate Partnership was started because we were aware of certain blockers on climate action, and those were mostly community engagement and data. I'm here if you want to speak more about this. We've got some engagement research, which I'm sure the academics will enjoy. But really, we were like, okay, engagement and data, what can the council do to help addressing those collectively? And I think we've all heard that climate action requires collaboration. But to collaborate, you have to know each other first. And that's a hard truth we had to face. So what we have proposed is that ecosystem, it was set up in 2022, of which we have 12 founding partners. And please know that you are one of them. So we engage with you quite regularly. And what we have done is really trying to bridge the limit between local climate action and the corporate business action of carbon. And that ecosystem, we think, would be on 3 levels. So we have an online community where we have a WhatsApp group for businesses to speak to each other. So if you have something to offer, if you have a cool event, or if you just want advice, like we have consultants on this group, we have academics, we have Rosa, she's part of the group. Hi, May. 1 minute. And that has really helped creating a sense of belonging and quick support. We also have a website where you can read case studies and live project. And what we are starting to do for 6 months as part of an experimental test of how this ecosystem will look like is monthly networking events where we get local people to come and speak about what they're doing. And hopefully that will help create excitement. And I think we are really trying to connect all the dots between those small actions and really show the compounding effect. What does this all add up at the borough level and how great Lambeth is, you know, compared to our neighboring. So we bring a bit of competition to fire it. And then we've got action-oriented workshops. So we're really building that 3 different steps, and it's how we think the ecosystem can move forward. Starting by knowing each other to then enable collaboration. I think that's my 4 minutes gone. But here to speak if you have any questions about the great things happening at Lambeth. which technically we're not members here, but if you're at Waterloo, you are one of us. So thank you.
Perfect. So next we've got pod rescuers. Now, as I mentioned earlier, pod rescuers were the winners of the e-waste hackathon that we ran a couple of months ago. And it's a group of students from across 4 universities. And yeah, they're here to talk about their scheme that they came up with then. So if we can welcome them to the stage.
So before we start, I am Lydia. Here's Red One. We are the on behalf of our team. Have any of you ever lost your AirPods or any other earbuds that you have? You can raise your hands. Okay, as you can see, there are quite a lot of you. So as we know, and also here you can see quite a lot of data. A lot of people have lost at least one pair of earbuds, which is over 40%, which is quite a large amount, we can't lie. And if you come with the idea that it sums up to 7% of the sales to replace the earbuds, like it makes a lot of money for the companies to actually, you know, because it makes up to $700 million. Moreover, as we may know, the thing is that there are a lot of people actually still using them, a lot of people losing them at like train stations and airports, and it's making up a lot of waste. But as the e-waste is still growing, we want to take the solution for that. And here is our idea for this.
Thank you. So yeah, as you can see behind, this is the solution we came up with. So our first aim was to ensure we could essentially rehouse lost earbuds that people lose at train stations and essentially give them a new home and a new like lease of life. So the first thing we decided to do was, as you can see here, we have a collection box. These collection boxes would be kept in secure locations within multiple train stations that are super busy in London. So for example, King's Cross, something like but yeah, like we have other multiple, yeah, Waterloo and all of that, yeah, sorry. But then from there we're going to be transporting them to very like refurbishment companies that we're working with essentially, and we want to make sure they're reliable and certified. And this is for a main reason is because we want to ensure that our like consumers, the people who use earbuds and stuff, we want them to have like a trust with us essentially, and we want to do this by ensuring we have high quality refurbishment going on. And it's through the use of sanitation, but then also making sure that we allow like our earbuds to be like thoroughly checked and like have high quality inspections. And we're hoping through like the use of TfL's promotion of our service, but then also their reputation they already have with the people, they will also like trust our process essentially and what we're trying to do. From here, we'd want to essentially resell these earbuds at a much more affordable rate and much more cheaper, and allow people to essentially not have to spend lots of money on having to fully like replace their earbuds. And so you might have noticed that in our solution, we've mainly focused on the use of like reusing over recycling. And a big reason for this is mainly because of like how small earbuds are and how difficult that is to manually go out of your way and try to recycle all the individual parts and separate them. Another thing is because of the fact we have adhesives, and those adhesives are kind of like difficult to like deal with, like if we're trying to recycle the batteries, the wires, and etc. And one thing we really wanted to focus on was making sure that people have an alternative solution that's cheaper, but also more like economically friendly and like sustainable. And the way we've tried to do this is we try to like focus our like target market towards like university students essentially. And this is mainly because we did a bit of research and we saw that roughly like a large like amount of consumers are usually from people from the 11 to like 26 years of age. But yeah, thank you for listening.
I lost my earbuds under the seat of my car, so I'm a big fan of that idea. So next up, we have Joe Turnbull. Joe Turnbull has been at King's College for just under a year, serving as the Programme Director for Campus Futures. And in this role, Joe leads several programmes aimed at transforming the use of KCL estate to enrich the students and staff experience, as well as to meet the institution's growth demands.
Thanks very much, and thanks for asking me to come today. So note to self, don't follow the cool presentation about earpods. But anyway, I'm here to talk to you about our furniture reuse in the Virginia Woolf Building Decant project. So this is a project under the auspices of Campus Futures. Campus Futures is a large-scale project working academically led, but working very closely and with our estates function at the university to invest in our estate for the future. We have 3 large projects that we're currently working with and working on. So the one I want to talk about today is the VWB exit, so the Virginia Woolf Building exit. You may or may not know we're having to move out of that large building by September of this year, which involves us moving 700 plus members of staff. Some of them are here around the estate across the Strand and Waterloo to enable us to rehome them in effect. And when we took the business case through the university, we were allocated a budget for these moves, which included buying new furniture in effect for all of those sort of 20 plus projects that needs to happen. And we kind of turned around and looked at ourselves with our estates colleagues and said, look, we're building all of these new buildings, we're refurbishing them with a sustainability mindset from an estates point of view. Why are we buying new furniture? What can we do to address this? So we've put in place a furniture reuse strategy. We're trying to try something a bit differently for King's at scale. Obviously, there is an ethos of reuse of furniture at small scale, but this is much larger scale than that. And we've set ourselves an aim to reuse 70% of our furniture throughout this move, which, as you can imagine, is thousands and thousands of pieces of furniture. So how do we do this? Essentially, we code the plans for the new space in terms of what could we reuse, what do we need to actually buy, and then we ask with an external partner looking at how we can source our own internal furniture. So how can we move it around, store it, and move it back to the right places for King's furniture as a first point of call. And then if we can't do that, how can we reuse furniture that they have in their stock, in their legacy stock? And then ultimately, if we need to, we will go ahead and buy new furniture. So we are a little way through that program. We have a little way to go. But of the four projects that we have successfully finished, including some of them down the corridor just here, we are already seeing that we're making some carbon savings. So we're very pleased about that, and we will see how we get on for the rest of the projects and certainly be updating with our sustainability colleagues. Just a few things on lessons learned with this. You need to be as flexible as possible in the requirements for furniture to enable this to be, to actually happen, because if we're too specific, we can't actually match those things. When furniture is going to be available is key. There's a whole industry behind this in moving the furniture in the right places at the right times. A catalogue of legacy stock. So we have catalogues at King's, but they are a bit disparate and all over the place. If we could bring them together, that would be fantastic, particularly for managing some of the small schemes where people inevitably will go because it's logistically easier to go and just buy some new furniture. User expectations is important. However, I have to say, in everything that we've done so far, everybody at King's is, in my experience, very mindful of this and very accepting. If we can reuse, that's the best thing to do. So that's been really encouraging. Very important that we set a quality standard for furniture that we're going to keep, because also the other thing that we're doing, if we're not careful, is storing a whole load of furniture that we're never going to use, and it may be better to recycle it in a different way. My own personal experience of this and the team's experience, reuse is far more complex than sourcing as new. So this has got to be really invested in as a process if it's something that we want to do for the long run. Obviously, the more we do of it, the more it will help, and also the more we'll get used to doing it.
And the other thing is about maybe we should be targeting certain categories, but these are just early lessons learned. To be honest, we still got to get through the rest of the program before we can be more specific on them. So what are we doing? Some of the summary and some of the next steps. So far, we could probably conclude that reuse may not be the most cost effective. So that's another consideration, obviously, in everything that we're doing. However, if we mobilise it in a larger scale across Kings for the medium long-term future, that may sort of negate that. There's considerations around partner provider roles. There's lots of different options that we can explore in that. One of the more immediate things is this project won't reuse all of our legacy furniture. So what are we going to do with that at the end of it? How do we make sure that we dispose of what we need to dispose of in a sustainable way, or how can we reuse further in the future? And the other part that we haven't got into yet is a little bit more detail about what are people doing elsewhere? How can we learn from that? That's it. Thank you.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, is this on?
So next we have Adam Warwicker. He's a specialist senior technician, surgical and informational engineering.
Hello, my name's Adam. My day-to-day, I'm a 3D printing specialist, basically. I work with a lot of different machines, 3D printing components for mostly surgical robots. And a year ago, I had this idea when I was invited here. I had an idea of recycling the plastic waste we produce from a process called FDM printing, which uses a bioplastic called PLA, or polylactic acid, and then basically remanufacturing it back into itself again. So this year is a milestone, really. So last year when I came here, I just had an idea, and so far, and thanks to the help with Rose and the sustainability teams and stuff, funding is coming very, very rapidly to help me move this project along. But before I talk about the burden, the massive impact that this has on the environment, I want to tell you all the reason why you should have 3D printers. Firstly, you can print wherever your imagination desires. 1 minute I'm designing and manufacturing components for surgical robots. I'm manufacturing medical implants, and then when I'm done with that, I go home and then I print toys for my 2-year-old son. Looking around the room, well, this bar, everything that you have in front of you could essentially be 3D printed, from your cups, vases, lampshades, door handles, literally anything. And the materials you can use, they're vast. A printer nowadays costs around £200. They're cheap, and you can literally just watch as it manufactures. There's no need to keep stock, no need to keep inventory. You don't need to procure anything. Everything you can do is right there on your desk. The most used plastic in 3D printing is PLA, or polylactic acid. It's derived from sustainable resources, mostly the fermentation of cornstarch. The reason the plastic is most used is because it has a very low melting point. It melts at around 160 degrees. So that alone is very low energy consumption. It's also very, very cheap. The carbon footprint of producing PLA is about 70% less than fossil-based plastics. But the impact comes from how it's disposed of. The printers themselves are very low wattage. They don't use much, a couple of light bulbs equivalent. But there are several ways that you can deal with this. One of them is using enzymes to break it down, as it is essentially like an organic compound. So you can use bioenzymes, which is very similar to what's in laundry detergent stuff, and they will break them down. The other method is high pressure thermal composting, which we do not have access to. And because there is no sort of recycle code with these materials, it basically just gets disposed of as any other plastic, and it takes the same amount of time as fossil-based plastics to break down. So the other thing is to recycle it. It's repeatedly recyclable, as I have proved. I've got actually gifts for all of you here that I've made from this recycled filament. I was meant to give them out before you at the start. Sorry, I'll do that after. But I just want to give you some metrics. So There are about 228,000 printers within the UK that can print this material, or that do print this material, okay, and these are active. King's has around 300 of those. I estimate that it's probably more than that. According to a report from a sustainable manufacturing consultancy, about 33% of this plastic becomes waste, which is equivalent to about 450 tons of waste produced from 3D printing and this material every year. And that's out of a 1.5 kiloton of virgin material. So from September, my workshop alone has produced about 60 kilograms of this waste, which is huge. And it has never been dealt with before. Speaking to some people at Strand today, they've collected tens of kilograms of this waste and they have nothing to do with it. They have no way to process it. So what I've been able to do, and if you can see the pictures here, I've been able to shred it down. This is using off-the-shelf equipment. This is a very, very cheap plastic shredder that it was probably some student project, and they've basically just thrown it together, and I've been able to purchase one. Actually, I didn't purchase it. Someone actually bought it for the department as a gift. And that is a student project, which is a filament maker. The shreds go into that, and it makes a filament, and then we're able to basically manufacture things like this boat. So with the amount of waste that we're producing, we could probably remanufacture hundreds of kilograms of this waste every year if we combine efforts with engineering departments around King's, which is huge, to be honest. Even just the shredding process, the whole process is inefficient. So the goal is to get enough funds together to be able to upgrade our equipment and make this automated. And then it is, we can branch out to more plastics and things like that. Cameron, who's sitting over there, he had the idea that he wanted to take disposable vapes, remanufacture the plastics on them for the battery containers, and use the batteries from these disposable vapes to make e-bike batteries and stuff, which I think is a great idea. So my work has brought lots and lots of collaborations with it. I have lots and lots of metrics here. I don't think I have time to go through it all, but the other plastic, big plastic, is someone mentioned plastic lids from bottles. Which again is a very another common 3D printing plastic, which could very easily be shredded and reprocessed in the same way, and then you could make disposable cups and reusable cups and reusable bottles from that. So yeah, basically the incentives are all there, and not just being able to print whenever you want, but also printing it from the material that you want discarded as waste. Thank you.
The next speaker is Fiona Campbell, the Head of Environment and Sustainability at BIFA. So for context, BIFA is our waste manager here at King's. And Fiona joined BIFA in May 2024 as Head of Sustainability and Public Affairs. And previously she worked in the UK affiliate of global life sciences company Bayer, where she led the UK sustainability, public affairs and communication programs, including setting up their ESG reporting and sustainability strategy. Prior to that, she worked at Food and Drink Federation and the Chemical Industries Association, where she worked on a range of UK and EU policy areas, including emissions trading, packaging, food surplus, chemical safety, and waste management.
Thank you very much. Yes, as you mentioned, BIFA is proud to work with King's in a journey to rethinking waste and what we do with it. So BIFA employ 11,000 people up and down the UK. We're best known for the big red bins and the big red lorries that pick up our business customer waste up and down the high streets, up and down the country. And it's still remains a very important part of our business. But if 20 years ago, it would have then taken me another 30 seconds to tell you what we did with the waste, because it all went to landfill. But now very little waste goes to landfill. We even pick apart mattresses to recycle every single parts of their components. So we've closed most of our landfills, and we're restoring them for biodiversity habitats, parks and solar farms. But that means we're doing a lot more with our waste, and we're rethinking it completely in order to see the value and the resources that we can recover from it. And this can involve, if I was going to go through a summary of everything that this involved, from cleaning soils to operating reuse shops, it could take me an hour, but don't worry, I won't do that. So some of our favourite customers are ones like Kings, who want to go with us on this journey of how to rethink waste. And from our point of view, the first step is always prevention, which might sound counterproductive for a company who wants to, who makes their money out of collecting waste. But we have a hunch, and that we're taking a bet on, that the more you put products and resources up the waste hierarchy, the more margin there is to be made from dealing with them. So that's what we're committed to do. And so therefore we will go into companies that we're working with, and we'll do waste audits, and we'll look at, if they're a manufacturing company or a university, we can look at every point at where they're producing waste and give them advice on how to reduce it. We'll also work with our customers who produce a lot of packaging to advise them of how to make it more recyclable in our systems, or in fact reduce the amount of packaging they're producing. And we also partner with organisations on innovative reuse projects. For instance, we were launching a project with Hubbub in Glasgow 2 weeks ago for reusable coffee cups at scale across the city. And something that a lot of people don't know about Biffa is we're actually also the biggest commercial operation for the redistribution of food. So that's getting at it before it's waste. And we will buy up the surplus, and then we will redistribute it through our through a network of commercial shops, but also community shops. And we can take food that otherwise couldn't be sold, and we can repackage it, relabel it, clean it up if there's been a spoilage in one part of a consignment, but the rest is good to go. And then we sell it, as I said, to our network of shops and community shops. And where we operate community shops, we use the power of the food redistribution that we're doing to also provide people who've been in food insecurity with additional help and services that they need. And when we can't prevent waste, then we want it to be recycled. With food, that means it's going to anaerobic digestion, or composting and turned into biogas. The food waste from Kings actually gets a VIP barge trip up the river to go to just beyond the Thames barrier to be turned into biogas. And for things like packaging, we really want to close the loop on recycling. So bottle lids have had quite a few mentions today, but we work very closely with the dairy sector, and you might have noticed that your bottle lid on your milk has gone from coloured to tell you which type of milk you've got to plain, and also that your labels are now shrink wrapped on rather than glued. So that was so that they can now go seamlessly through our recycling facilities, and by removing the colour, we get a pure product that could go straight back into food grade HDPE, back to the dairies to be turned back into one of these. So if you've got one of these in your fridge now, in about a month's time, provided you've put it in your recycling, you might get some molecules back from that current bottle in your fridge that have been through our plant at Redcar. But we can only recycle what we can collect. So I'm really pleased that in working in partnership with Henry, we've managed to, in the last 5 months, increase the recycling rates by 10% across the estates. And incidentally, it's sorted just down the road in Wandsworth. But we think that we can do more. So we're pushing to get you to 60% recycling rates as soon as possible. And I think something to bear in mind, even if you're not motivated by the sustainability side of it, it costs you less to dispose of recycling than it does to dispose of general waste. And the cost of disposing of general waste is only going to go up. So at a time when I know budgets are all under pressure in academic institutions, it's a win-win for people, planet and profit. So I just wanted to finish by saying, whatever fields you end up working in, stay interested in waste, because wherever you work, you're going to they will be generating waste. And sometimes the scale of what needs to be done to transform us to a zero carbon circular economy can feel overwhelming and too much. But we're working on it with people like Henry, and you as individuals are not powerless. You can really do a lot by mindful purchasing and using your power as a consumer, and at the simplest sense, making choices on packaging where you've got single types of material and you don't have laminated multiple layers of material, they can be recycled much more straightforwardly. So choosing products that have got sustainability designed in, staying curious and challenging the status quo, because the art of the possible is changing. And then think before you bin it, because the better you separate your waste, the better we can do our job to recycle it. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. So next up we have Michael from Unigreen Scheme. And Unigreen Scheme are a very interesting company. They try and take old lab waste, lab equipment, and redistribute it to people who might not be able to buy brand new lab waste. And I was even being told last week that it goes to some film sets as well, some of the old stuff. So yeah, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Well, thank you for the introduction and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. Yes, we've had a few pieces of equipment go to various films, Jurassic Park, Star Wars. There's one piece of equipment in one of the Fast and Furious films. So it's like a cabinet fumigation system, but they've made it look like a high-class welder, which is quite interesting. Anyway, my background, I was working as a postgraduate student when I was asked to help with a lab clear out. And it was basically a process of take a trolley down to the storeroom, fill it with equipment, take that around the back of the building and throw it in the electrical waste skip. And when I was asked to do this, I thought, you know, this feels wrong. This feels like a waste. Why are we doing this? And I asked the people at the, you know, who were there, and they felt the same way. But there was no other option. It's redundant equipment. They were losing their storeroom. You know, they had to get rid of it. So my solution was a resale service target for universities where we would collect, store, and sell surplus equipment. And obviously, it was a great solution for them because the equipment would go. They'd get their space back. But then obviously it was a sustainable solution rather than recycling. We've been working with Kings for a couple of years now, and you know, had some pretty interesting results. So project example on the top corner here, redundant equipment accrued across a couple of years, nothing particularly, you know, not a few nice bits of equipment. And they were thinking, what do we do with this stuff? They'd advertised it internally because there's quite a proactive team here. But they didn't have any interest in these bits, so we came and collected the equipment, prevented the equipment going to waste, and I think the department got about £4,000. Another example on the right here is a centrifuge. This is the last couple of years we've been doing more and more around repair and recertification. So this item came to us from another facility at King's, and they said, you know, we've been told it's broken by the lab, but we don't know what's wrong with it. And we thought, well, our engineers can have a look at it. We brought it back, and it needed a new rotor, yes, but the main problem was the gas struts that hold the lid up had failed. And if you ever imagine trying to use a centrifuge and put your precious samples in, and you've got to kind of hold the lid up with your elbow, it's not ideal. So we think that's why they got rid of it, and that's like a £30 fix that we were able to do. And the equipment's been used for you know, in another lab for over a year now. So with King so far, we've rehomed over 400 pieces of equipment. There's 13 tons of kit so far, and that's we can look at the carbon emission savings, and they're nearly 50 tons of carbon emission savings from basically reuse and avoiding unnecessary new manufacturing. So it's really exciting, and I appreciate the opportunity. There's lots of people in this room who've helped make that happen, so thank you very much. On my own part, I started Unigreen Scheme 10 years ago now, and we've got a team of grown up to a team of 30 staff, which is just amazing. We process about a truck of equipment load of every single day. And we've managed to rehome 30,000 pieces of lab equipment now. So that's 30,000 items that would have ended up most likely in disposal, now being reused. So really proud of that. £6 million of savings for the sector so far. But two calls of action quickly while I got about 30 seconds left. One is we're still only scratching the surface, realistically. There's so many labs, so many, not just in universities, but the private sector, public sector, so many facilities. If you know anyone who'd be interested in this or interested in yourself, please get in touch. And the second point is, from my own experience, because we've already heard from the pod rescuers today, and the last 10 years, I've seen so many game-changing, disruptive sustainability businesses and organizations come out of university, student bodies and staff. Like, we all often talk about networking, but just look at what's going on in your entrepreneurship departments and, you know, in the sustainability community internally as well is fantastic, because there's going to be more ideas there for sure as well to pursue. So please get in touch. There's my email address. And thank you very much for your time and have a good day.
And our last speaker of the day is Dr. Ethan Errington, and he's a research associate in waste-derived alternatives. As a university, I think that's the right slide. There you go. You can click.
Okay, hello then. So I'm going to take a very brief point of time just to go over some of the research being done at King's at the moment into upcycling of waste using microbiological approaches. Oh, sorry. No, that was right, wasn't it? Okay, so when I talk about waste materials, I'm talking specifically about organic materials, so materials that are heavily carbon-based in their chemistry. And these can come from a number of sources in the work we do, including residential and organisational settings, such as sewage and municipal solid wastes, but also from industrial settings in areas like agriculture, food and drinks manufacture, or heavier chemical industries as well. Now, the reason that we're interested in microbiological approaches is because microbes have evolved over many, many years to be able to break down organic wastes as part of sustaining their own life. And they typically do this in very environmentally benign conditions. And they do it in a way that produces byproducts that are actually useful and valuable to us as a society. On top of all this as well, they traditionally do it in a way that conserves the nutrients that are present in the organic waste at the start, meaning there's not only an opportunity for mass and energy circularity, but also for nutrient circularity as well. I've mentioned that they make products. So what kind of products are those? Anaerobic digestion, by the way, is one of these microbial techniques, but we do others. The kind of products that are being produced are biohydrogen and biomethane fuels, specialty chemical precursors, typically volatile fatty acids, nutrient-rich residues that can be used for composting, and in the future, potentially with the right conditions, also the microorganisms that grow themselves could be considered to be single-celled proteins for future food systems. Sorry. So what we really try to do to make this idea come into action is put on a thinking cap that's not only biologically focused, but also focused on process design optimization and the use of AI and machine learning as well, so we can understand what's going on in microbial communities. We've done a lot of work with different collaborators that you can see at the bottom of this slide. And what we really want to kind of communicate as a bit of a lesson learned so far is that we think there's still work to be done on the perception of value associated with what is currently seen as waste. Particularly, we work with people that have their own waste streams, but we found that sometimes waste streams from one manufacturer might be more valuable to a different manufacturer. So having more transparency on what compositions of wastes are available and having that transparency, we think could really improve waste-derived product innovation in the future. And hopefully that'll lead to more technology being implemented using microbial approaches in the future too. So thanks for your time. And just to say that I'm representing Miao Guo, who's a senior lecturer in the engineering department, and this is our team. So thanks very much for your time.